Good morning. I thought today I'd talk about why going plant-based is essential for health and all of the diseases that can be caused by consuming animal products and the mechanisms behind that, how eating meat, eggs and dairy causes disease. So there's lots of amazing doctors these days doing research, independent research, non-profit research into whole foods, plant-based diets and the effects on human health, and comparing that to the rates of disease amongst the population that eats a diet high in animal products. And so over the last number of years there's been a massive rise in what's sort of considered lifestyle or chronic degenerative diseases. So things like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, Alzheimer's, cancer. So why are these diseases on the rise? What's causing it? Now, when you look at something like cancer, the focus for a long time has been on environmental pollution and carcinogens in the environment, but it's actually been determined that animal protein is the number one carcinogen that you should be worried about. People are consuming it on a daily basis, often multiple times a day, and so your exposure is really high and therefore it's a much greater risk. And so I've got an article that I thought I'd read a little bit from by a doctor called Dr Dean Cornish. So he's one of the doctors in America. He works at the University of California in the Institute for Preventive Medicine. And in this particular article, he talks about the mechanisms behind low-carb, high-protein diets, because that's one thing that a lot of people think is, if you're overweight, then you need to eat more protein, more fat, less carbs, less sugars. You put your body into ketosis, but that's actually not a really sustainable or healthy state to be in. So low carb, high protein diets, high animal protein diets promote heart disease via mechanisms other than just their effects on cholesterol levels, because for a long time it was thought that cholesterol was the main contributing factor. But these arterial blockages may be caused by animal protein-induced elevations in fatty acids and insulin levels and decreased production of the cells that help to keep the arteries clean. Egg yolks and red meat appear to significantly increase the risk of coronary heart disease and cancer due to an increased production of trimethylamine N-oxide, or TMAO, which is a metabolite of meat and egg yolks, and it's linked to the clogging of arteries. So that's one of those toxic byproducts that I've talked about in other videos. When you break down animal protein and egg yolk in your body, in the human body, it actually converts it and forms this TMAO product, which is a toxic byproduct, and it's a cause of cancer and heart disease. There's other factors as well. So animal protein increases IGF-1, which is an insulin-like growth hormone, and that's a leading cause of cancer as well. It also increases chronic inflammation, and it's high in another tumour-forming sugar. This is red meat I'm talking about, NEU5GC, and that's linked to chronic inflammation as well and an increased risk of cancer. And it goes on and on and on. There's a few other mechanisms that he talks about. Okay. Then he talks about how when fat calories were controlled, so if you're eating a diet high in animal products, you're going to be eating a much higher proportion of fat in your diet than someone eating a whole food plant-based diet. And I talked about that in one of the videos where I compared what I eat in a day put through a nutritional app compared to a standard sort of diet and how that looks. And the fat content in that diet was 2.5 to 3 times what was recommended to be consumed. So when fat calories are carefully controlled, patients lost 67% more body fat than when carbohydrates were controlled. And so people bang on about low carb diets and high protein and how it's going to help you lose fat. Well, first of all, it's not sustainable because you kind of feel really cranky if you're not eating enough carbs. You're not going to have any energy to exercise. And long term, it's much worse for your health as well. So he goes on and talks about a few other things. One thing that he mentions is the changes in your genes. So it's another thing that people sort of say is, oh, but you know, my mum died of breast cancer, I've got the gene, and so it's highly likely that I'm going to get cancer. I may as well just enjoy my life and eat what I want. Well, that's not actually true, because there's this thing called epigenetics, and so yes, you may have genes that could potentially set you up for certain types of diseases, but it's your diet and your lifestyle that switch those genes on. So if you maintain a healthy diet and if you engage in healthy lifestyle practices, it's much less likely that those genes will get switched on. And so by healthy lifestyle practices, I mean like daily movement and exercise, drinking enough water, keeping your stress levels low, doing some sort of job that makes you feel happy and feel like you're contributing, having connections, emotional connections with your family and friends, enough sunshine, you know, all of those things are just as important as diet. But diet is one of the easiest things that you can control and make healthy choices with every day. And so it's a huge factor in keeping your health and wellness long term. So that's a little bit about the mechanisms behind how animal products cause disease. Dairy is another big one. So casein in dairy gets broken down to one of the most potent carcinogens known to man. So if you're consuming dairy, you're pretty much eating a cancer risk on a daily basis. Processed meats like sausages and bacon are classified as a class 1 carcinogen. Red meat's classified as a class 2A carcinogen. So all of these foods are highly likely to cause disease at some point in your life. So why consume them every day? You know, at least start with minimizing your consumption and try and work towards a whole food plant-based diet, because that's the only diet that's been proven to be healthy for humans long term, but also can prevent and reverse disease. So people with hypertension go on a whole food plant-based diet, and within 3 weeks their blood pressure's normalized and they're off their meds. Now, these are the kinds of results that you can get on a plant-based diet. And so personally for me, I've noticed things like my skin's cleared up, my energy levels are consistently through the roof. I rarely get sick if I'm paying attention to everything else with regards to balance in my life. I have lots of energy to exercise and I recover really well from that. And I feel great, you know, internally I feel like I've aligned with my values. I'm aligned with, you know, our natural compassion and empathy, and I'm doing the right thing by the planet as well. Another thing we'll talk about in a subsequent video is the environmental effects of the animal production industry and how, you know, it's one of the biggest factors in the way our planet is kind of going downhill these days. And so simply by reducing your consumption of animal products, you're going to contribute to the health of the planet as well. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed that little video, and I hope that inspires you to try and start thinking more about the importance of eating a plant-based diet if you're wanting to attain health, and also if you're wanting to contribute to the planet's health in the long term as well. Thanks guys, we'll see you tomorrow.